and this is tricky, and I'm not claiming to be an expert on this.
My name is Ahmad, and this is a question for Dr. Wood. It's a little bit different about what we've been talking about today, but it's about the nature of Jesus. In 1 John 3:20, it says, "If our hearts condemn us, we know that God is greater than our hearts, and he knows everything." In Mark 13:32, it says, "But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." So if Jesus is God, how do you not know about the hour or the day? Thank you.
Yeah, and that's I would say that's probably the best verse to bring up if you were challenging the deity of Christ. But this is similar to the earlier question in how can God die, right? If you're just saying God, as he is in himself, eternally, well, that would make no sense for God to die. If you're talking about God as he eternally exists, not knowing something, that would not make sense. If you're talking about the incarnate, the divine Son becoming incarnate, well, then you have two natures, and this is tricky, and I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, but if you take the doctrine of the incarnation seriously, if you read in Philippians chapter 2, that Jesus, being in very nature God, or being in the form of God, did not consider that equality with the Father, something to be held onto, but made himself nothing, taking on human likeness. If you take that seriously, then you have to ask, okay, when you have the incarnate Jesus as a baby, what level of understanding of everything does he have? Does he learn as he goes along? And again, this wouldn't make sense if you're just talking about God as he exists in himself, but we can have these kinds of discussions if we're talking about Jesus actually becoming a man. And so you have different interpretations of the text, but I don't see that it's inconsistent with maintaining the deity of Christ if we acknowledge that Jesus did become a man, and that if God is, in some sense, laying aside his glory to wrap himself in human flesh, that maybe he could say, in those circumstances, as the incarnate Son, he didn't know something.
Yeah, this question is obviously not directly related to our topic, and I would have respected David's choice if he chose not to address this question. But since he's addressed it, I would say that this actually is a major problem for the belief that Jesus is God. Because, yeah, if he doesn't know when the hour will occur, then there is at least one fact that he doesn't know, and God cannot cannot be ignorant of one fact. And the idea of kenosis, that he somehow emptied himself of divinity, this itself is problematic. But the passage that David cites doesn't actually prove that Jesus was God in the first place. The Philippians passage has to be understood within Philippians as a whole and the Pauline corpus as a whole. And it's clear in the Pauline corpus that Paul distinguishes between God and Christ, between God and Jesus, between the Father and the Son. Only the Father for Paul is God. And he says there's only one God, the Father, and one Lord, Jesus Christ. There's a distinction. They're not both God.